Everybody, depending on where you're coming from. Welcome to the Cities on the Frontline speaker series session, this one on Beyond the Closing Ceremony, Resilience Legacy in the Wake of Major Sports Events. My name is Ron Harris, and I'm from the Resilient Cities Network, and I will be your co-host for this evening, along with Michelle Cramer, who is the Communities Lead with GHD in Australia. Before we get started, let me give you a quick introduction to the series and a couple of ground rules. The Cities on the Frontline is a virtual thought leadership speaker series featuring solutions by cities for cities. It began in 2020 through a partnership between the Resilient Cities Network and the World Bank Group's City Resilience Program. The series provides city practitioners with a platform for exchanging knowledge based on the experiences that they've had within their own cities. This is the 8th session that we've had this year on Cities on the Frontline speaker series, and this one is supported by and co-hosted with GHD. Again, we're really excited and proud to be partnering with GHD to continue bringing together experts from cities and diverse sectors worldwide to share their knowledge at this speaker series through several upcoming webinars on a range of thought-provoking topics like harmonizing humans and habitats, sustainable development and infrastructure, and again, the one that we have for today on leaving a resilient legacy in the wake of major sports events in cities. Now, the purpose of these global seminars is to have an open and honest learning conversation. We're recording today's call, but we ask you not to attribute any comments unless you have the express permission from the speaker to do so. And of course, we can help you obtain that permission if you so desire. We have about 175 registered participants for the call today. So to facilitate the discussion and make sure that we see your questions, if you have questions, please use the Q&A function on Zoom. Again, don't use the chat. It's kind of hard to keep up with, but make sure you use the Q&A function on Zoom to ask your question, and we'll do our best to get to those. Please also note that, again, we're recording this session, and the recording of this session and the PowerPoint slides and presentations will be it'll be posted on our website sometime next week. I would like to now kindly invite my co-host, Michelle, to introduce herself and the session panelists and take it forward from here. So over to you, Michelle.
Thanks, Ron, and hello, everyone. It's fantastic to be here. My name is Michelle Cramer, and I am GHD's Future Communities Leader in Australia. GHD is a global engineering and advisory business, and our commitment is to address the world's biggest challenges in the areas of water, energy, and communities, together with you. For us, Future Communities is about creating thriving places and spaces that put people first. We believe that communities are at their best when they are connected, productive, inspired, and resilient, and that finding balance between these 4 community pillars will deliver a more sustainable future for people and for planet. It's wonderful to be here today, partnering with Resilient Cities Network on a topic personally very close to my heart, the nexus between shaping resilient cities and delivering major sporting events. Hosting a sports event often requires significant investment in infrastructure, including transportation, accommodation, and sporting facilities. It is also essential to prioritise inclusivity and limit disruption to residents in the process. By embedding resilience into the planning process, cities can ensure that these major events leave a legacy of equitability and sustainability. Paris 2024 has pledged to be climate positive, and the Pan American and Parapan Games in Santiago later this year plans to leave a collective, enduring social, urban, sporting, and environmental legacy. Brisbane 2032 also aspires to foster social and economic development, both regionally and nationally in Australia. Today, we will explore what happens after the closing ceremony and how cities can engage multiple stakeholders to leave a positive legacy after major sporting events. So to why this topic is so close to my heart, and by way of background, I am an architect and an urban designer whose first real job was working for the Sydney Olympic Coordination Authority, delivering the infrastructure for the Sydney 2000 Games. But this was a double pleasure because my husband is an Australian Olympian who competed at those games in water polo. I was privileged to briefly see behind the scenes of the Athletes' Village in full flight, attend the opening and closing ceremonies, and I didn't miss a game of water polo at the purpose-built facility that was a very late addition to the infrastructure program when women's water polo was added for the first time. Possibly more important for today's discussion, Sydney is a great example of leaving a resilient legacy after a major sporting event. Sydney Olympic Park continues to welcome daily community of approximately 21,600 people and more than 14 million visitors annually. Its 2023 master plan, which aims to rejuvenate the park's legacy, commits to zero carbon and is expected to create more than 30,000 jobs. On the ground, I know people who are now long-term residents of the award-winning and leafy neighbourhood of Newington, formerly Sydney's Athletes Village, and who cannot imagine living anywhere else because of the amenity it provides in housing choice, schools, healthcare, retail and parklands, not to mention the sporting facilities. And those sporting facilities my family uses many times a week because my two sons are now also in junior athlete programs. Imagine if I had fully appreciated that when I was involved in the design of the precinct. We here in Australia and New Zealand have also had the absolute privilege and pleasure to being part of the Women's FIFA World Cup over recent weeks. The atmosphere and community spirit has been infectious, and it has been inspiring to witness the rise in profile of women's sport generally and our new national icon, the Matildas, and to see the athletes' gratitude for the organisation and facilities they have been provided. On our panel today are people who are deeply invested in getting these major events right, not just for the show itself, but for the long-term community benefit. I'd like to introduce you to Nat Cook, OAM, Rowland Sport Associate and 5-time Olympian. Nat won a gold medal at the Sydney 2000 Games in Australia, and she's held leadership roles in various organisations, including the Australian Olympic Committee, having chaired the Queensland Olympic Council for 10 years. Enrique and Szendro, Director of Public Space and Non-Motorized Mobility of the Undersecretariat of Territorial Planning and Public Space of the Secretariat of Mobility and Urban Planning, Government of Nuevo Leon. Enrique is involved in the complex task of delivering Monterrey, the capital of Nuevo Leon, as part of the 16 hosting cities for the 2026 FIFA Men's World Cup, an historic event with 3 different countries as hosts. Carolina Tendler is the Executive Coordinator in the General Department of International Relations and Cooperation at Rio de Janeiro City Hall and acted as a special advisor to the Mayor of Rio de Janeiro during the 2016 Olympic and Paralympic Games. Harold Main Nichols is Chief Executive Officer of Santiago 2023, the Pan American and Para-Pan American Games, with Chile as the host of the world's largest multi-sport event in the American region. Harold was a Chilean FA president from 2007, I should say, to 2011, and worked for FIFA from 1993 to 2012, where he took part in the organisation of 4 World Cups, 3 Olympic Games, and other competitions. Welcome, everyone. We're bringing you together to better understand the challenges and opportunities, past experiences, lessons learned, and best practices that these events can bring to a city and its community. I'll now hand back to Ron to moderate the first part of our panel discussion, and I'd encourage our panelists throughout our conversation to consider how we can leverage these major events to enable legacy cities that are connected, productive, inspired, and resilient. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you so much, Michelle. And again, excited to have you co-hosting with us. This first question, I will be asking Carolina this first question. And this is on the 2016 Olympic Games in Rio. Carolina, can you tell us more about that event and share a bit about some of the resilient legacy, or at least some of the thought process going into those events in that year?
Sure. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Michelle, and our cities for this great opportunity of talking here a little bit our process. I'm now in the city hall, but I was at the time, so I can share a little bit. And it's always good to remember what we have been through. And 4 years, no more, well, almost 8 years, right, has been passed, because we already have new Olympics next year. So it's amazing. So first of all, the Olympics and Paralympic Games are a unique opportunity, to host the biggest sport event on the planet and be the center of the world's attention during the competition. But the Games pass, and for the whole city as well as being the scene of a great celebration of sport, it is the opportunity to make changes that last much longer than 28 days. Rio hosted the Games with the awareness that they should serve the city, not the other way around. This was something that Mayor Pais learned from Maragall, so the former mayor of Barcelona, boosting its development in the long term. So the 2016 Olympic and Paralympic Games in Rio were planned to be a turning point in Rio's transformation into a better city in which we can live and work. Hosting the Games is a perfect excuse to actually improve urban mobility, tackle our biggest challenges, which are recover degraded areas, better prepare to deal with floods, expand sanitation. We went from 15% to 50% of coverage. In order to do so, the financial engineering was developed in such a way as to relieve the public budget through partnerships with the private sector. This is very important. So what we did was actually for every dollar that we invested in sports facilities, another 5 were invested in legacy projects. Example, projects that directly benefit the population of Rio. So 57% of the Olympic budget was funded by the private sector. This is very important. So only 43% by the public sector. 62% of the total amount that was invested in the Games was covered into urban infrastructure, such as bus rapid transport lines, VLT, which are the light rail vehicles, flood control and sanitation infrastructure, road duplication, metro line, and the Resilience Operations Center. In social terms, the legacy was also positive. Rio's GDP per capita would have been around 7.5% lower between 2012 and 2015, and the unemployment rate fell from 8.1 to 4.2 in the same period. We presented a project that won, that had 17 projects, and what we gave was actually 27 urban projects. So we took 10 other projects that were already drawn to implement, either by the federal or the state or municipal governments. And we must clarify that the implementation of some of these projects was recently resumed by Mayor Pais. So it's very, we did this project, that after the game in 2016, we knew what to do with the arenas. The Olympic Park, which occupies an area of 36,000 meters, is being completely transformed into a public urban park with new landscapes, children's toys, gym equipments, etc. So some of the ongoing projects, because what happens is that in 2016, we delivered the game, we had this project, and for 4 years after that, there was a change of government. It's very important that, I know there are people from all over the world here, and I don't really know how it works, but here every 4 years we change the mayor. So actually he can be elected once And then he had been already reelected, so he could not run again. So there was another party that took over and did not continue the project. So this is very important. So for 4 years, all the plan was stopped. And then in 2021, Mayor Pais, which is the same one of the Olympic game, came back. And it's actually for the past 2 years and a half, it's doing what he proposed to do, which are some of the, one arena during the games was used for taekwondo, fencing, and judo, became a full-time educational gymnasium for 900 students. The swimming pool, which was used for polo, Michelle, I don't know if your husband was there, actually turned into 4 public schools, benefiting 1,700 students. And we located them in vulnerable neighborhoods of the city. And one last example to show that the games serve the city is the Madureira Park, which has 15 square kilometers that was built far from the Olympic Park, but as an Olympic excuse to bring a green area to the most populated area in the suburbs. Mm-hmm. So we put it actually the Olympic arrows there, and then we brought this green area to the whole population around. So therefore, we can say that the Olympics left a significant urban and social legacy for the city of Rio. Thank you.
Carolina, I love this example, and I love the work that you all did to ensure that that social legacy was left over. And it, from what I gather from this conversation, so much initial planning went in on the beginning to ensure that this was the legacy. I have a quick follow-up for you, and then I'll go to Natalie next. Carolina, you mentioned the significant amount of public sector investment that went into this project. So I guess two follow-up. Number one, were the private sector support, were they also in alignment with this social legacy, social and community legacy? And then number two, how did you get folks to the table to be able to contribute that much money, well over 50%?
Yeah, so what we did is that we put the Olympic Park in an area that was not yet developed. So what we did is that bringing also the Olympic Games, we partner with the private sector so they could actually explore the buildings. So the whole athletic city was done by the private sector, so they could actually sell those apartments afterwards. And also turning this, and also with this changing of arenas. So the arenas, they were built in a way that was not very fancy, you know, because we were actually avoiding this white elephants, you know, that we spend a lot of money and we don't know what to do with them afterwards. So we did it, you know, in such a way that we actually saved money from, we knew we had to build other schools, for example, and then we used these materials to building these schools. So actually we saved up to 20% on those movements, and then working with the private sector, showing them that actually a new whole area of the city was gonna, well, let's say pop up, you know, and expand. Also with the hotels, you know, we doubled the capacity of the hotels, and then we also partnered with them, saying that we would bring other events like music festivals to this area, so they actually the hotels could keep on receiving people. And well, we actually learned from competing against, you know, Tokyo, Madrid, and Chicago, because these were the 3 cities that we won against in the final, is that our challenges, you know, that we had in the city became our, well, biggest, you know, opportunities, you know, because actually they saw that bringing well, the Olympic Games to the city would actually help, you know, fostering a place of the city that was always left behind, you know, and the government must demonstrate that the substantial financial investment, this is very important, will not take precedence over public purpose, and that it's possible to host major events without burden being too high for the local government. And then actually Rio 2016 was the least expensive of the 4 previous Olympics. And this is amazing. You know, we had, like, just to give an example, $4.1 billion were invested in Rio in comparison to 14 billion in London and 16.8 billion in Tokyo. So, you know, I'm taking like the one before that and the one after that. So the same period, you know, we spent 4.1 billion, and it changed very much. You know, the slides that you saw, you know, like our capacity of high capacity transportation, for example, it went from 15% to 63% of the city. And while the population still feels this right now, you know, because well, the lanes are there, the buses are there, and well, it's possible. It's possible.
I love that. Thank you for that. The 2 key takeaways I want everyone to remember from what you just shared is, number one, you all found a way to leverage Rio's challenges and turn those into opportunities, which is a very resilient principle. And then the second is the intentionality as government workers, as government leaders, that no matter what happens in the private sector, that will not take precedence over the public good. And I think that's something that we could all take with us moving forward. So thank you so much, Carolina. Much appreciated. Next.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, next, I will go to Natalie. Natalie, would love for you to introduce yourself. And as a 5-time Olympian, being a Brisbaneite and now a member of Brisbane 2032 Organizing Committee, how are you shaping the vision for Brisbane 2032? And in your answer, can you also help us understand what legacy do you expect to leave for the city?
Thanks, Ron, and also to Michelle and your water polo husband. Go the Olympians and the Paralympians. Thanks for having me. Carolina, let me tell you that I love Brazil. Brazil for beach volleyball, my sport, is our spiritual home, and every athlete's dream is to play at an Olympic Games, and for the para-athletes to play at a Paralympic Games. And there's a thing called an Olympic gold medal, Ron, as the holy grail of all things. That's it right there. That is what the athletes at the heart of the Olympic movement strive for, and our cities are also striving for an Olympic gold medal. Don't be disillusioned to think that it's just the athletes, right? Everybody in their job to deliver an Olympic or Paralympic Games is striving to do a gold medal performance. And the other part to that is not everyone gets that, right? So if we think we're going to have everyone happy about the Olympics and Paralympics, because Carolina, we see images around the world of all the things that went wrong in Rio, and that's media for you, right? So how do we continue to tell these great stories about the transport network, the resilient disaster recovery, the city social plan, the skateboarding park that you just put into a new urbanisation is so important. And you use the term Olympic excuses, right? So that is, we are, the Olympic and Paralympic Games are spearheading transformation of a city, both physically, mentally, spiritually. Michelle knows, we've seen it here in Australia. The Matildas, our football team, has just transformed our hearts and souls, which you can't quantify. You can't put a number on what that's done for our pride, our civic. We all wear the green and gold jersey. We all stand up taller because of our athletes' performances. And they came forth. They didn't get a medal, but we all still want to be Matildas. And that's what an Olympic and Paralympic city does. It actually creates this air of ambition, this air of hope for a better way, for a better city in every field, not just sport. Sport is the excuse we use to target all of this, and how we transform our hearts and minds in our engineering feats, in our architectural feats, in our social hospital, social wellbeing feats. And so the hope for Brisbane 2032 and I'm a very proud director in there right now, where we are shaping what it will look like, not just for 2032, which is 9 years away, but for 2042 and up to 2060. Because my first Olympic Games, I went to Atlanta as a 21-year-old beach volleyball athlete, the first time beach volleyball was in the Olympic Games. And I revisited this year, 27 years later, to see Centennial Park in Atlanta flourishing with thousands of people taking photos of the Olympic rings, taking photos of Pierre de Coubertin and the statues that were left, following the Olympic trails, and still living the Olympic City spirit. And that is what is possible, whether that's in a faster train network, a bus network, a better hospital system, and a better accessibility and inclusivity for our disabled public too, that want to get around the city better. All of that is possible through an Olympic City and a major event strategy, right? So important. As an example from the Matildas, the original opening game for the Matildas, our soccer team, was to be in a smaller stadium that probably housed 50,000 people. Tickets sold out like a rock concert, and they had to move it to the Olympic Park stadium, and we had 80,000, almost 80,000 people for every game in that stadium. So without the legacy of Sydney 2000, we wouldn't have been able to hold all those people. So this continues to grow. It is all about our storytelling. It's about our narrative and how we keep telling the story of health and well-being in our children, wanting to be soccer players, getting out, going for a walk, wanting to be a beach volleyballer, a swimmer, a taekwondo athlete, is so important for our health, which ultimately leads to a better society. So we also in Brisbane are looking at the First Nation Indigenous challenges and how we lift that up through social enterprise, through Indigenous businesses in the procurement strategy, and how they can be part of the procurement strategy for Brisbane 2032. We talk about it from T-shirts to marquees, all the way through to art and opening ceremony and closing ceremony choreography. All of that is what is so important and gives kids the dreams. My 7-year-old daughter at school is designing the Olympic medal right now, right? Now, she might not win that prize to be the one to officially launch the medal, but that is what they're all thinking about. This is the pre-legacy and into the post-legacy of major sporting events. So super proud to be an Olympian in the middle of that, going to 5 games, and Rio was my 6th as a support person. But then now to see what it does to social infrastructure, the pride of a nation, to showcase to the world what our major events do. It's pretty special, Ron.
Well, it's really special to have you here to share that with us. And I think everybody watching can sense the enthusiasm and excitement that you bring to the table and what these games bring to the table. Now, a couple of follow-up really quickly, based on what you said. You know, I love folks in my organization, right, is, you know, they know me for always talking about storytelling and narrative when it comes to our work, right? Like narrative is actually a reflection of reality, not necessarily a reflection of narrative shapes reality, essentially. And so can you share a little bit more about the storytelling and narrative element of starting in the pre-legacy leading into the post-legacy?
Yeah, so in Queensland, our government issued a hopes and dreams survey. It wanted everybody in Queensland and Australia to add in their hopes and dreams for what the Olympics and Paralympics in 2032 could deliver. So from that, we've actually had everybody's input. I think they got over 15,000 people to fill in the survey. And all of their hopes and dreams are now in the narrative of the Brisbane 2032 Olympics. Not only do those 15,000 get to share the story, but the board of 2032 now get to shape what the public actually want. And as I said up front, we can't please everyone. We will try. We will do our best. But it is now about telling the story of what we can do and what legacy we will leave in a climate change sustainability perspective, from a First Nations perspective. How does sports technology shape the future? How can we lead the way in the sport tech space? How do we change our hospital system and inclusivity? How do we shape all of that, Ron? And you're right. Whatever story we tell from now, we have 9 years to wait for reality to catch up, right? So we are the voice, we are the face, we are the story of all the goodness that we hope will come from this Olympic and Paralympic Games. And it comes through logos, and it comes through mascots, and it comes through colours, and it comes through messaging and essence of what this Olympics in Brisbane will deliver for the future of our locals and our tourists that are going to enjoy, as Carolina said, the hotel nights, the tourists that are going to flock in and watch us from all over the world as we beam pictures of Brisbane to over 8 billion people on an opening and closing ceremony opportunity.
You have a great opportunity with these major sports to shape how people think about the communities and the cities where the sports are being held. I was chief resilience officer in Minneapolis during the time when the Super Bowl came to our town. And Minneapolis is known for being very, very cold. And the Super Bowl obviously is in the wintertime for us. And we were able to change the narrative around how cold it is. And we called it the Bold North. And to this day, we still hold that moniker as the Bold North. It's a way of, I don't know, it's a way that we see each other. It's a way that we stay connected. I love how you talked about engaging tens of thousands of people of their hopes and their dreams. How many people actually have the opportunity to share that when it comes to a major sporting event, or to share that with their government, or to share that with the powers that be? So the fact that you all have provided a pathway for communities to also engage, they're going to take more ownership of this process and be the ones to carry the legacy post the event itself. So props to you for that work, and really exciting to talk to a gold medal Olympian. The first gold medal Olympian I got to speak with was Suni Lee, who's of course a gymnast, and she's from St. Paul, Minnesota. And so to your point about the city, she won the gold medal, but it felt like our entire state won the gold medal as well. So thank you so much, Natalie.
Thanks, Ron.
All right, we will shift to our other panelists today. This is Harold from Santiago and Enrique from Monterrey. I'll ask you both. First, introduce yourself and in your introduction, and then share with us, how are you incorporating urban resilience into the planning for the Pan America Games and for the World Cup? And as a follow-up, how do you intend to not only apply these principles during the events, but again, to also create a lasting legacy beyond the events themselves?
Well, hi, thank you very much for the presentation. It's okay.
Do you want to go first, Harold?
No, go yourself. Go yourself.
Thank you. I'm going to share a little bit. First of all, thank you for having me on behalf of the state of Nuevo León. I'm really excited to share with you and to be with a Olympic gold medal winner. This is my first, not the second as you, but this is my first time to being in the same space as someone who has won a gold medal. So I'm really excited. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, thank you. So first, I'm going to give you a little bit of context about Monterrey. Monterrey is a city of 5.3 million people. It's the second largest city in Mexico and in population and GDP. It is known for being an economic and logistics hub, since it's really close to the USA. It is also surrounded by mountains, as you can see in these pictures. You can see in the picture above, it's called the horse chair because of its shape. And you can see it also below, but afar. It's the same city, it's the same mountain, it's the same city. We have a really privileged location in terms of our natural places, and it is also really an important aspect for us in this 2026 World Cup. Also, we have a lot of issues. Some of them are, we are the most polluted city in Mexico. It's an important thing to say. We have a lot of water scarcity. I mean, we are in the beginning, geographically, we are in the border of the desert that it's bordering with these mountains. So we have a lot of water scarcity issues. We have sprawl. We have copied a lot of things from the United States cities, like sprawling it's our thing as well. And we also have, because of this sprawl, we have mobility issues. We have a lot of area to cover, and we don't have enough services to cover it. So what we are doing? The first thing we are doing related to this FIFA World Cup, but also as a legacy for the city, is this mobility master plan. We are investing 5.9 billion US dollars. We are starting the construction of 3 metro lines. We are restructuring the public transportation. We are connecting all of the transportation modes, creating complete streets, which is something that we have, but we have in really small areas in our city, and trying also to improve the regional connectivity in our city to take advantage of our natural spaces and this connection with the United States. We are also planning for the nearshoring. This is really important for us because, as you know, the United States has this relocation of industries nearer or closer to its border, and Monterrey is one of the great hubs that the industry has come to. So we have to think ahead and plan the city so that it can also incorporate these new investments in a way that people can have a good quality of life and start changing this trend of sprawling. So let me show you what we're doing in our urban mobility network. What you see in the gray lines are the existing metro lines and BRT lines, and also the pale blue also are existing. But the lines that are in pink and blue and this dark red are the new metro lines that we are building, and it is also connected with, if I may point it, with this is going to be where the 2026 World Cup is going to be hosted in Monterrey. We will be hosting three games, but also we are taking advantage of this to improve our whole mobility. It is one of the most important issues that people has told us. So this is a way using such a big event to develop and have a better city. So looking into 2040, this is our horizon. I mean, we have the World Cup in 2026, but our horizon is 2040. If we have the trend as we have been growing, the city will sprawl. We will have these different indicators of infrastructure costs and energy consumption, kilometers traveled by car, average travel times, how much it's going to cost to each household, and the emissions that we will have. So this urban mobility network is also a way to change this trend, right? Our aspiration is to stop the sprawl, is to have a good option for the car. Right now, it's the only option. We are trying so that people see that there's another option. And also, we want to save hours per year for each person. Right now, we have congestion issues that cost almost 1,500 hours for each person a year, which is 23 days that we can save them a year if we change this. Just to end up, we also are trying to change how our streets look into better streets, into streets that, since we are a really warm city, so that people see that walking in the shade it's a lower temperature, and it's something that they can actually enjoy. We will have public illumination, mobility, and we will have a lot of benefits derived from this from this this great event. Just to end up, you can see in the right corner where the stadium is going to be, this circle, this oval. And this is how we're trying to connect it through these green corridors that I was mentioning to other urban facilities and universities and places that people already go to. But they will also be places that people in the World Cup will go to as well. So we're trying to invest almost $100 million in the park regeneration. We're going to regenerate 4 parks with 100 million. And this is a render image of how we want our streets to look. We want places that are not only for the cars, but also for public transportation, non-motorized mobility, such as cycling, and people walking in the shade. So this is the legacy that we want to create with the justification of the FIFA World Cup 2026.
Enrique, this is very exciting. Thanks for sharing this story. And it, what I'm taking from this is that you're looking to, make big investments in public spaces to better connect people to those spaces and also to the other resources along those mobility corridors. Really quickly, how are you engaging communities in this conversation? And because to get people to use these things, it's a practice, right? We have to change culture and change how people behave. I'm curious your perspective on how you all are thinking about doing that.
Well, it has been a challenge. I'm not going to lie, but we are in constant workshops with neighbors, with the social, the activists, the universities. Last year we had almost 25 different meetings with them in terms of how we're going to do these projects. And this is regarding green corridors, the one that I was mentioning, and regarding the metro lines, which is the biggest investment of all this. It's trying to portray all the benefits that will come, not only for mobility, but for people not breathing the exhausts of the cars, people spending more time with their families, and also having a better way to move inside the city, going to places in which they might not be able to go if there was no metro line. So this is the way that we try to engage communities.
I love that. Thanks so much, Enrique. All right, Harold, we will ask you we'll ask you the same question. How are you incorporating urban resilience into the planning for the Pan American Games and the World Cup? And then how do you intend to not only apply these principles, again, during this event, but to also create a lasting legacy beyond the event itself?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm in the other part of the world. I'm in Santiago, Chile right now. Congratulations to Natalie. It's a pleasure to have here in the panel someone who went to 5 Olympic Games, won gold medal and bronze medal, and now is working for sports on Brisbane 2032. I was in Brisbane in charge of all the football competition for Sydney 2000, a beautiful city, really, really nice. I'm sure they will do a wonderful Olympic Games in 9 more years. Concerning our presentation, I have a presentation. I don't know if you can put it there so we can talk about the legacy and all what we have been doing in Santiago 2023, the Pan American Games and the Pan American Games. I don't know if you can run it.
I don't think I have access to that presentation. Oh, we do have it actually. Here we go.
Oh, there it goes. Okay. Well, this Santiago is our home city and the home city of the Pan American Games and Pan American Games. Was founded in 1542. We are not a very old city. Anyway, we have a population of 7 million people here. And we are expecting for this year 3 million people arrivals on foreign tourism. And this is an increase of 71% concerning 2022. So it's a huge number. And of course, we are expecting more than 100,000 people, tourist people coming to our country during the games. We are located in a valley guarded by the summits of the Andes mountains and everything crossed by the Maipo River. We have been on a very dry period, very, very dry, but since yesterday we have a very strong rain, so the capital is suffering a little bit about too much water coming, but we expect that for October, November, we will not have that trouble. We have more than 7 million inhabitants in the city. In the country, we have near 18 million inhabitants, and we are the sixth largest city in South America. Let's go to the next one. Okay, the Pan American Games are from October 20 to November 5th. There are 17 days of competitions. We're expecting 7,000 athletes plus 2,500 officials. We have 39 sports, 61 disciplines. Then we have the Para-Pan Americans, and that will go from November 17th to November 26th, 10 days, 2,200 athletes, 1,100 officials, 17 sports, and 18 disciplines. Between both games, as you can see, we'll have 12 days to prepare the scenarios to have here in Chile a very, very good Para-Pan American Games. One of our missions is to have a completely inclusive games. So first the Pan Americans, then the Para-Americans, and we hope to have one meeting point between both of them. Then concerning all our legacy, if you can go for the next slide, please. Thank you very much. We have a social legacy. 5,600 students will have been taking part of an education program, learning about inclusive sports, gender and sports, and the history of the games. We will have near 20,000 volunteers, all of them trained. This is very uncommon in our country. We don't have too many activities with volunteers as in other countries, so this has been a big success. We expect at the opening ceremony 43,000 spectators, and it will be broadcast all over Chile and also all over America. Concerning the urban legacy, we have been investing in construction near a little bit more than $500 million US, remodeling some sport precincts with also some development of high-performance sports in Chile. This will change completely the philosophy between our country concerning sports. We will have really top scenarios for the future. Plus that, we will have the first Paralympic sports centers in Chile. We have been investing near $9 million on this, and of course it will be for the games also. And concerning the Pan American and Para-Pan American Villa, we built 1,355 new homes for low-income families. This will help them to have a better housing in the country, and it was built in a very close to our metro or to our subway. It's only 200 meters from the subway, so the athletes will have the chance to connect with all the country, with all the city without any problem. Concerning the sports legacy, we have been investing near $12 million US in top-line sports equipment in all sports, and then this will be a top legacy for everyone. We have been preparing 130 new female judges in different sports. This also will bring us better officials for games. 1,500 hours of television broadcast in the Americas. And we hope that this will leave us with a very positive image of the country in the spectators' minds. We have 26 venues with taking measurements on the environmental impact associated with greenhouse gas emissions in 2023. 40% reduction in water usage for construction located in water-scarce areas. 80% of waste recycled. Everything that we generate will be recycled, 80%. And yesterday, we get an agreement, and we will sign it in the next days. An agreement with a company that will give us the chance to be the first Pan American Games with 100% carbon neutral, for a legacy for the future of all the games. And if we go further to the next slide, please. It's a video that I would like to share with you. Can you run the video, please? It's not running. Well, sorry for that. It's not working, but that it was all. Go to the last slide, please. That's concerning our legacy as a city, and also concerning everything that we are preparing. We have the games in 58 more days, October 20th. So we are working very hard to have really a top games here in the country.
All right.
That's the presentation.
Wow, thank you so much, Harold. We really appreciate the direction that you all are taking and the ambitions that are laid out in different legacies that you'd like to leave in those categories. Now I'm going to shift to my co-host Michelle from GHD to take care of this last section of the conversation. Michelle, to you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you to everybody for their amazing contributions. I've got to say, Harold, having just come out of some amazing couple of weeks here in Sydney, and I did have the opportunity to attend FIFA World Cup in Auckland as well a couple of weeks ago. I am very jealous that you are about to host these games and the vibe that comes from the city. We've had lots of conversation about how the cities are preparing themselves. We've got a couple of questions here to all of you, and I'll ask you to jump in and respond to them that are a little bit more focused on the people of the cities that you are operating within. So the first one is, hosting major sports events often attracts criticism due to the risk of social displacement and the substantial financial investments that could otherwise be used for public purpose. How can these concerns be effectively addressed and navigated to ensure a balanced and responsible approach? Carolina, you spoke about Rio at the beginning, talking about how some of those social challenges were built into the program. So perhaps you'd like to go first.
Thank you, Michelle. Well, yeah, I love to talk about it because actually bringing the Olympic Games causes a stir, right? Anywhere in the world, whether in developed or developing countries. We brought here some world journalism, that showed how people were actually not believing, I think, in the Olympics here. Well, it was the first Olympics in the South America. So I guess people were really concerned. And well, the government, first of all, must demonstrate that the substantial financial investments will not, we will not shift from, we're not saying like, okay, we're not going to invest in health anymore because we have to build this arena. We have to show that we are able to deliver, and that we're not putting money where the people will not see afterwards. So we invested exclusively, from the municipality in sports facilities and infrastructure equivalent to 1% of the amount invested in education and health during the same period. So this is important that we share with the population. These popular concerns can be effectively addressed as long as the city plans for the future after the games and clearly communicates to the population what the new uses and benefits for the city will be. While these arenas, some of them stayed and actually are being used now for athletes, and we did not have this before. So this is very important as well. So part of it will keep on being used by athletes, and we know that it's possible to leave a transformative legacy here for the city. If we first showed the criticism, but we also after the games we had, I don't know if the slides is still going on there, but we had after we delivered the Olympics, many compliments from all over the world, because people were really like, whoa, surprised of what happened here, and communication, I think it's very important, also showing that the event will help to get lasting projects off the ground that will benefit the population, especially with regard to projects not directly related to the event. Infrastructure works, mobility, urbanization improvements, that will be left to the population. We have a great example that Mayor always loves to talk about. It's our port area. So he demolished a suspended road that gave access to the port area. Was a project that had been shelved for years. And he took this advantage of this moment, to demolish it in an action that was highly criticized by the population, including the mayor's mother. He always says this at the moment, because it caused, an insane traffic at this moment. But today, this previously degraded area has been completely revitalized and is the largest real estate expansion in the city, which has already all the public mobilities and public services. It had nothing to do with the Olympic, but he used this to bring the city center, where actually the city starts to be built, that was not used. And today it's one of the most amazing spaces. It's where we actually have the Museum of Tomorrow, which was designed by Calatrava, the architect. So it's necessary, to engage partners from the private sector, as I mentioned before, so that the public budget is not burdened so much. So we use the games to develop without having to compromise public investments in other areas. And finally, with regards to the projects associated exclusively with the sports activity, it remains as a sporting legacy from the games. So yeah, that's it.
Fantastic, Caroline. I think what
I also wanted to mention, I also wanted to mention here, because I had a question in the Q&A, and just to talk about it real quickly about the climate, what we've thought about, the climate change. Rio has a very specific position, let's say. The city actually developed between the sea and the mountains, and of course the most vulnerable people, they are on hills that are highly affected when by floods and landslides. And in 2010 there was this tragic landslides, and people were heavily affected, and we built this operation center, that was a place that we put all the service, the public service together, so they would actually answer faster to those kind of problems. And this was wonderful because we used a lot during the games, and for the games we could also foster that place. And we are actually the first city that signed cooperation with NASA and also with Waze. So we had like not only our cameras, but we also have like all the users from Waze, and we could actually answer much faster to the needs, daily needs of the city. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carolina. I think what's also interesting about what you're saying is that need for government resilience as well as community resilience in the process of delivering these big events, which I'm sure Natalie, Harold, and Enrique also have lots to say about. And Ron, I'm hoping we have some time to do that. He's nodding, so that's good. So Natalie, perhaps you'd like to jump in about that.
There are lots of questions in the Q&A too, and there's a big one in there on the redevelopment of the GABA, which is a demolition and a rebuild. And Carolina, what I loved was, how do we take the percentage of what's being spent on sport as a component of a total percentage on a health budget or a transport budget? So that's something that I will take away and go and understand. The interesting part, and this is the Olympics, is you keep referring to it as an excuse. The GABA is actually a product, for the anonymous person who asked the comment, a legacy product for what we call AFL, which is Australian Football League, and cricket, two non-Olympic sports. Let me tell you that is, they keep wanting to blame the Olympics for this legacy product that is going to help our other social sports that are very big in our country. So yes, it's a challenge. There are many people on a greater pay grade than me out there trying to work out which is the best for the public purpose and the public purse and the financial well-being of the state. So it is, of course, a challenge when you're looking at having to displace a school, when you're looking to have to maybe only get a few extra seats, but the GABA has actually done its time, and it is time to change. If AFL were trying to change it, we would get a different, maybe a different public perception. At the end of the day, for me, this is about a transformation. We use the Olympic and Paralympic Games as a reason to make our city better. That is the ongoing strategy question. How do we make it better? When I was playing volleyball, I would say, how do I better the ball? How do we make it better for everyone in the city? Now, as I said at the beginning, we're not going to please everyone. So for me, that's all strategies all over the world for any major event. Build your strategy around the best legacy outcome, the best pre-legacy, which we're trying to do on the lead up as well, for the areas that we care about: climate, health, and participation, driven through elite sport, is really, really important. So we're not going to solve every problem, and I'm sorry I don't have an answer on how we can affect the GABA, but please know there are a lot of people trying to understand the best outcome, and I believe we will settle on the best outcome.
Thanks, Natalie. Harold, have you got some final comments that you would like to add related to the Q&A or the question that I posed at the beginning?
So, yes. Well, first of all, I would like really to talk again about all the legacy we are doing here. It's not only a sport competition. It's not only that we want the best athletes to come to our country. We also want to show everyone coming here that we are really prepared to show them how we are taking care of all the environment, of all the ambience of the city, of all the ecological part of everything that concerns the city. Today, we talk with the subway, and for the first time ever in this kind of games, we will not use buses to take all our people to the stadium for the opening ceremony. We will use the subway. Everyone will move near 6,000 people in 1 hour on the subway, just from point to point. And we are trying to give all this ambience to the games. And we are expecting a lot of tourists, not only to join the country, also to join what we think we can provide for the future of our athletes. So this is a big work of all the city of Santiago together with our with the organization of the games. It's the first time ever that we will have such a big games here in Chile. So we hope that the legacy will not only be on the sports side, it will be also on the community side. That's our big goal, and we hope to get that goal.
Thank you, Harold. I think changing the public transport network is transformational for that later community, and absolutely to be commended as that starting point to that journey. Enrique, over to you. Last final comments.
Thank you, Michelle. Just to say, it's really important to align the big investments for these projects with previous or issues that you already have in your city. This is the thing that we are trying to attend. And just to give you an example, this whole mobility network, it's going to change how people, hopefully it's going to change how people move. Right now, only 9% of the people are close or live close to structured public transportation in the city. And we're trying to change this to almost 50%. I mean, we have a really big, really sprawled city, so we are always trying to keep up. It's not enough still, but just to give this 50% of the people, more than 2.5 million people, a chance to get faster to another place, to go a park that maybe they couldn't reach, and also to stop investing so much in the private car, which is one of the greatest greenhouse gas emitters in our city and in the world. This is going to be a change for our city from this project on, and hopefully to have the best city we can have.
So fantastic. Thank you so much for all of your contributions. Ron, I'm going to pass back to you to close out our session.
All right. Wow, that was awesome. I think this might be one of the first times that we've unanimously decided to extend our conversation because of how rich and nutritious the conversation was. First, I'd like to thank all of the panelists for joining us, and thank you for the work and the experience that you are bringing to this table to share with us and this broader community. We're walking away with lessons in terms of investing in social infrastructure, changing how people move, leveraging our challenges and turning those into opportunities, capitalizing on public investment, storytelling, narrative, and really changing how people view a community and view a city, allowing people to dream and imagine. All these things are certainly awesome components of resilience, and you all have done a great job of communicating those and teaching us those lessons. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us as a co-host today, and to GHD for supporting and sponsoring and partnering with us for this event. I'll close us out with this. Stay tuned in your inboxes for our next speaker series, which should be another really good conversation. The next topic will be leveraging payment data. So this is public-private collaboration to build a more resilient urban future. So building off of this theme of partnering, collaborating, bringing in the private sector, other sectors in our vision of leaving a resilient legacy. With that, thank you everybody for joining us. Keep an eye out in your inboxes for information for the next event. Again, this conversation is recorded, and the presentations that were shared will also be on our website in the next week or two. With that, everyone have a good day, good afternoon, good evening, and we'll talk to you next month. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
everyone.
Go for gold.
And
Thank
come
you.
and play here in
It's a
Italy.
pleasure.
Come back to Brazil.
Yeah, fala un pouco português. See you soon.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, good night.